Ladies, gentlemen, and non-binary friends, my name is Kat, and this is Moni.
Hey, guys.
And we are your co-hosts. On behalf of the Fake Ass Book Club, a.k.a.
The Fab Podcast,
we welcome you aboard the mothership. We are sending you on a non-stop trip directly into the shenanigans of this podcast.
if this is your first time, please listen carefully until the end of this announcement.
However, if you are a frequent flyer, you may skip directly to the show and enjoy. The Fake Ass Book Club has a running time of about 1 hour. We will be ascending to an altitude of whatever cocktails we have available. Also, we most likely will be talking at the speed of roughly 100 miles per minute. When the Fab neon sign illuminates, make sure your headphones are plugged in, your devices are charged, and your pearls are properly clutched.
Yes, Lord.
As this podcast contains explicit language, strong opinions, and adult content. Individuals under 18 are not advised to listen and do so at their own risk.
And we would also like to remind you that this is a fake-ass book club. So,
If you're an avid reader, or if you never plan to pick up a book in your life, this is still the podcast for you. The only must is that you show up. To any and all haters aboard, you already know where the emergency exit is.
bye, Felicia.
If this podcast is not for you, we understand. However, tampering with, damaging, or trying to destroy our positive vibes are strictly prohibited by FAB bylaws, which clearly state good vibes only. Before takeoff, you will find information about us and this podcast at our website at thefabpodcast.com. We strongly suggest that you follow us across social media and subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. If you have any questions or want to reach out, please don't hesitate to email us at thefabpodcast@gmail.com. We know you have a choice in podcasts, and on behalf of the Fab Podcast, we would like to thank you for choosing us. So with that, buckle up, sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride.
Hey y'all, this is Moni.
And this is Kat.
Hey Kat.
And
this is the Fake Ass Book Club. Wait, can we both say it or no?
Happy podcast!
No. What's up, y'all? This is your girl Moni.
And this is Kat.
And welcome back, guys, to the Fake Ass Book
Fake
Club.
Ass Book Club.
Yay. Okay, so today, you guys, we are getting ready to talk about a book. I'm super excited. This book is called Born a Crime. And it's written by Trevor Noah, which I'm sure, I don't know, if you've not been familiar with him, you should be by now.
By now.
Yeah.
But he's a comedian.
He is a comedian.
And he wrote a book.
He did.
And we read it.
This is a really good book. I hope you guys stick around to hear us talking about it. It's super honest. It's really funny. And it's a really nice coming-of-age story.
I just love a good autobiography. People's stories are in. He has a very interesting story.
Yeah, he's fascinating. So I'm super excited. But before we get into actually talking about the book, we do like to start every episode with just a dedication.
Yes. So put your hand over your heart.
Put your hand over your heart, guys. So first, we want to just dedicate this episode to any and everyone listening. We appreciate you guys. Also, I personally want to dedicate this episode to Trevor Noah's dimples, because they're super cute. And also Nelson Mandela and all of the people involved in dismantling the Apartheid South African government, because that was pretty fucked up. Also, I also want to dedicate this to his mom, Patricia, because she was the GOAT and I stand. Okay, she was... We'll get into that, but yeah. Kat, what about you, friend?
I feel like this one is for Africa and Black moms.
Yeah, let's go.
This was, that's what my heart really went out to. So,
all right, well, let's cheers to him, friend.
Cheers,
Cheers.
dedicated.
Cheers, guys. All right, so we're going to get into it, y'all. Let's get lit.
Okay, so we got title, Born a Crime, autobiography. It was 264 pages. How long would you say it took you to get through it?
So let's be clear. I didn't read this book. And so is it weird to say, I read this book when you actually listen to it? Because it feels weird to say that. So I listened to this book.
I listened to it as well because he has beautiful dulcet tones.
Oh my God, I recommend not like you shouldn't actually read it, but if you are somebody like myself who tries to make time.
Black, buy the audiobook and the hard copy.
Absolutely. Give them double the cash,
that gives
guys.
them clout and money so that they can point to and see, like, look how much I produce.
Yes, and it was just, he has a nice accent, he has a nice speaking voice, and he does all these little voices and stuff for people, so it was super cool. So I liked it. It probably took me a couple of days of listening, because how long of an audiobook was it?
It's actually 8 hours and 44 minutes.
Right. So.
And here's a pro tip. If you're in a hurry and let's say you're on your way to your own fake-ass book club and, like, let's say you're like me and hadn't completely even finished it today. Like, but it was my rereading of it.
Right, same.
Like, you can listen to it at 1.5 or double time.
So that you can, get through it a little bit faster for all you fakers out there.
Yeah, man. But it was really good. So, like you said, I mean, this is my second time. So I had actually read it before, and this was me rereading it or re-listening to it, which I need to do. I need y'all to understand. We just had a convo before we started recording about how my memory is. When I say a heaping pile of garbage, I barely remember.
I didn't say that.
It's trash. I mean, and it's okay. It's fine. It's fine. It just is.
You remember what's important.
I mean, exactly.
You're not
it gets
really
me by.
good with trivia.
Oh, hell no. I'm the worst.
Because you're about what's purposeful. You're too pragmatic.
Sure.
Yeah,
there's
there's
for that
nothing
shit.
wrong
Thank you.
with that.
Thank you, friend. You know what I mean? You made
I don't
my
know how valuable
limitations.
remembering fantasy movies is.
I know. I'm so bad. So bad.
It's fun, but I don't know how because I think immediately for you, it's like, why remember this? This isn't very valuable.
Yeah, I mean, well, and I don't know that I'm thinking about it like that, but that ends up being the reality. So
fair.
Okay, but I digress. But so let's do just kind of a breakdown of what this book is about. Do you have like a little description you can kind of read about the book so that people kind of understand?
I wanted to anybody who remembers Sex and the City. There was like a critic named Mashiko Kakutani.
And let me tell you, she said that to me, and she's like, "Do you remember it? You remember the episode?"
It's not important, so no, you don't.
No, I don't remember that
remember
shit.
it, and that's okay. But like, she's a real person, and she left a review of this. She still worked for the New York Times, and quote, compelling, by turns alarming, sad, and funny. Trevor Noah's book provides a harrowing look through the prism of Mr. Noah's family at life in South Africa under apartheid. Born a Crime is not just an unnerving account of growing up in South Africa under apartheid, but a love letter to the author's remarkable mother.
Is that it?
Quote.
I like that. I think
like
that is a nice summation.
Because we should get into why the title is Born a Crime.
Oh, my God. I mean, so first of all, if that doesn't draw you in, the fact that somebody could be born an actual crime, like, that's just wild.
His
so when you think about
existence is
that,
criminal.
Right. And you're a newborn baby.
But it isn't
you're
that
illegal.
but okay, I won't get that deep yet. But
no, we won't.
Like,
we got levels.
The reason do you want to...
So I think, should we play like the little, so this was kind of like, this is a clip of him just kind of reading the intro of the book. And this is actually what really pulled me in. I felt like it was super compelling. And I mean, it's crazy that this is real life. Again, this is super, like you said this before, that real life ends up being stranger than fiction sometimes. So we're going to play this clip real quick. It does. And real life sometimes does
doesn't
not.
have to do anything.
Yeah. So we're going to play this clip real quick and then we'll talk about it.
For my mother, my first fan, thank you for making me a man. Immorality Act, 1927. To prohibit illicit carnal intercourse between Europeans and natives and other acts in relation thereto. Be it enacted by the King's Most Excellent Majesty, the Senate and the House of Assembly of the Union of South Africa as follows. 1. Any European male who has illicit carnal intercourse with a native female, and any native male who has illicit carnal intercourse with a European female, shall be guilty of an offense and liable on conviction to imprisonment for a period not exceeding 5 years. 2. Any native female who permits any European male to have illicit carnal intercourse with her, and any European female who permits any native male to have illicit carnal intercourse with her, shall be guilty of an offense and liable on conviction to imprisonment for a period not exceeding 4 years.
Racism.
I mean, that right there, if that didn't pull you in, guys, I don't know what would.
Well, it's always interesting to go back and read statutes that apply to racism. So basically, if like you don't understand like the legalese of all that, it's basically like we will lock you up if we catch a white woman and a black man or any two people of different races having sex. You will get locked up. So, or it's on the books illegal for race mixing to happen.
I just feel like, I mean, how much time do we have? Like, I just feel like that shit seems so whack.
They
like the
were
fact that
so
you're sitting
committed to
around coming up with, you know what I'm saying, like these arbitrary laws that have to do with just, you know what I mean?
If only they had sat around. Like, actually, they went out.
They studied
and they studied Jim Crow.
Yeah.
They studied Australia. Like, they have a horrific.
And we're saying they as in the South American, Lord. You guys, I'm tired.
South African.
government.
I can't do the accent, but the South
was
African.
Was that what that was supposed
It was supposed to be South African.
I thought that was
African.
I thought that was just
it's like
a cheeky.
really harsh.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it sounds
I
really
can't do
weird.
it.
It's like a cross between it's like country. It's almost English.
It's like
kinda
country,
Australian.
German.
It's weird.
It's Dutch,
it sounds
actually.
weird.
It's a Dutch.
Oh,
yeah.
That's right. There are a lot of Dutch.
It's
colonists
a Dutch, English, African hybrid.
It sounds really
that
weird.
the white people
Afrikaans.
there, the Afrikaans
Yeah.
people there. But they did a lot of research all over the world to how to effectively suppress black people.
That shit was crazy, man.
And they put up the apartheid system, which was only dismantled in, did we look this up?
94.
94?
1994, sir.
I'm sorry for yelling. I thought
Ma'am.
it was the 80s.
No. Listen, hold up.
84?
First of all, I
not
remember
94?
94 because I remember
This is before or after Tupac died.
It
Jesus
says
Christ.
it lasted from 1948 to 1944 and included such restrictions.
Wait, 1944?
1948 to 1994. Excuse me if I said that wrong.
1994.
Excuse me.
Okay.
Again, the tiredness. But
Okay, I'm still getting. So while we were walking around in like cross colors
Oh yeah.
and
Oh yeah, friend. I do remember going to so I grew up in Detroit, and I remember when he got freed from prison, my mom took us to go
Mandela?
see him. Mandela, excuse me, yeah. And I didn't understand the significance
clue.
of what the fuck that was. I just know that we were there, and it was fun. But I was like, but looking back too, and I don't know, if you've never really had any information about apartheid.
The way he says it almost sounds like there's a T at the end.
Apartheid. I know, almost like a TH almost.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't do it.
But it basically means apartness in the Afrikaans language. And it was a system of institutions, basically racial segregation. And
It was their
existed.
Jim Crow, but it was
Yes,
like
way more official.
organized. Like they were just
they
really
went
committed
hard.
to. Okay, so this is what I want to talk about too. Like he doesn't address it in the book, but I think that's what's left out a lot of times of the white supremacy narrative is the pseudoscience of eugenics. And I only know this
Agreed.
from being a Star Trek nerd, because in the Star Trek extended universe,
I feel like there should be a sound effect where...
We'll get one.
I don't know. What is I'm about to say.
We'll get one.
I'll just make one
It'll
up.
just be a transporter sound. And like there was a eugenics war, basically, where they were trying to genetically engineer human beings, but that's kind of like what they're doing here. They want to breed out blackness because they've been taught that these white features what we're calling white features automatically make you superior.
Right.
And they're so committed. Now, it was a pseudoscience, meaning like it's a false science. Like it doesn't bear out. Like you,
not real.
because the thing about science is you can test it and it's repeatable, it's predictable, all that stuff. I like how he says that his existence the reason why they were so against interracial relationships is because it so disproves their theory. Because it's like, why would they even, if we're some sort of just separateness, why would we even be able to mate? Like, why would we even be able to mate?
Why does my
is this a
uterus
person?
block this shit?
Yeah, like if I was truly a monkey. You know what I'm saying?
Right. True.
Because, you can't convince me there aren't people out there fucking monkeys. So
Yuck.
Because people fuck sheep.
Okay, I can't.
And goats
donkeys
and stuff. And
Donkeys.
all that stuff. So it's like it chipped away at the
Validity
logic,
of,
which there is none because it's stupid.
It's not, though, but so, on top of just separating people based on how they look, though, it was also so that they could politically, socially, economically dominate, you know what I mean? Basically, the majority, because the majority of people in Africa, obviously, were African.
I feel like they're still figuring that out. I think when Europeans went into Africa and Asia and all these different places, they thought it was like Europe. Like they thought it was like parallel populations.
No.
I think like before, because I grew up with maps. So I've never lived in a life without knowing what the globe looks like. But most of humanity, you just knew your patch of dirt. And so they're going into these areas thinking it's like their patch of dirt. And it's like, no, you don't know how long this culture, how many people there are. Like they really did convince themselves they were the majority. But it's like, nah, you, sir, are the minority. And
on top of that, too, if you were to procreate with somebody in this particular space, your genetic material that you get after that, meaning your child, is not necessarily looking just like you.
No.
And so you're actually observing scientifically how fragile your own DNA is. You know what I'm saying? When it's up against a dominant DNA. So, I mean, we ain't got to go into all that. We ain't got to go into all that. But I'm just saying, I'm sure you feel a way when you realize that. So you do have to create systems, and you do have to talk people out of their own humanity. And you do have to create systems that oppress, because you need them to believe the lie so that you can carry out your business. But that was one of the main themes, just the way that the apartheid South African government really played out and how it informs every aspect of your life. And it was just fascinating.
Where you can move, where you can live, how it was. I always joke how it makes me appreciate our white people here, because...
And that's messed up.
That is.
And can I say a disclaimer, too? Because I do feel like this last episode, too.
I
we talked a lot about white...
Says.
Don't disavow. Because, I need y'all to understand, if we're talking about white people, right? And Kat even keeps saying this, I don't even want to use that term because it's not.
I was about to say
it's not real. And we can get, I'm sure we will delve more into this because there'll be more books that are.
Yep.
I mean, here's the thing: when you're Black, a lot of your personal experiences and your world is informed through and by your Blackness. So it's hard to separate your personal experiences. But I do feel like people get. What am I even trying to say? I'm about to forget.
Preach.
Preach. Okay. Preach to them. No, it's one of those things where I feel like there are people who happen to be white, and I'm borrowing this from Amanda Seales.
Who consider themselves white.
Right, because I mean,
like
whiteness,
that better.
because here's the thing, you have to understand on some level that there are systems in place, and there's a history to back this up. And there are people who recognize that, who can be considered white, and there are people who are not. So when we're speaking about white people, we're talking about the people who benefit from these systems, benefit from white supremacy, benefit from... basically taking a group of people and being able to subjugate them to their own whims in order for their own personal gain. So I'm not just talking about somebody who, the average white person necessarily.
Like how I loved this part. This is jumping ahead a little bit.
Okay.
But I loved how when he was giving the lowdown on how they had to characterize Asian populations.
That was so good. This is how you know race is fake. I'm going to let you say this, but go ahead. It's so fucking fake.
Thank you for letting me say it. I want to
do.
say it's so bad because it's so
It's hilarious
stupid.
And really terrible.
Okay, so I teed this up. So the way that they had to do this in South Africa, because keep in mind, these people, everything has to go into a box. So Chinese people were Black because there weren't enough Chinese people to create their own category. So Chinese people had to be sorted as Black, but Japanese people got to be white because they wanted to buy stuff from Japan.
They're like, hold up, we don't need them electronics.
They're like, we need that Super Nintendo.
We need all that. We need all that.
And Japanese people are about respect. Like, you're not going to be able to treat them like niggers and buy from them.
That's probably true too. Yeah.
I don't even know. I mean, really, do you think you could treat Japanese people like niggers? And it depends on how much money it is, probably.
I mean, unless they want to be. I mean,
but
some
South
of them
Africa's
might
not. They're like, nah, like we.
I mean,
make
here's
enough
the
money,
thing:
we don't have to take
it's
this.
economics. That's the point. Like, I think that's the point. I think the point you're trying to make is that it's exactly. It's who can do what. We know that we're going to be utilizing you.
They didn't fear China, so they're like,
no, they weren't an economic powerhouse.
And that's what was crazy too. He's like, you can't tell me that these South African police could tell the difference between a Chinese person and a Japanese person.
Absolutely not. So if I'm Chinese, I could just say I'm Japanese.
Yes, I'm going
what
to
are you
sit
going
on
to say?
Why were there white benches?
Man, they went so hard, y'all. Again, racism isn't funny.
I'm sorry.
But it's like, really?
I'm sorry. The idea of a white bench is hilarious. Like, I can't sit on a bench.
No, because it's a white bench. Your white booty cheeks are the only ones that may bless us with your...
Get your fat black ass off this white bench.
Get your N-word ass. Get your nigga ass off my bench. Yeah, so I mean, again, it just begs
racism.
There's a racism.
It ends up being just super ridiculous when you're hearing these stories. And again, so Chinese people are Black though. I need y'all to think about that for 2 seconds.
Yeah, well, they are here now since the Wuhan plague or flu or whatever.
Oh my God, right?
The Kung flu.
Oh my God, that is so
I guess
fucking
Asian people are really getting it right now.
And it's so sad. And I mean, and this isn't the first time. It's not like this is something that's new to Asian people too. But here's the thing about whiteness that gets you fucked up, right? Because when you think when you can opt in and out of your whiteness, you fucking forget that you can be a nigga that quick, right?
So
because
fast.
y'all were in concentration camps and shit and like that. After they bombed Pearl Harbor and all that shit.
World War II?
Yeah, around that time. And
they got reparations, by the way.
Yes, they sure did. We won't go into that, but
they
yes, they
deserved
did.
it, but I'm just saying.
Absolutely. I mean, but then you forget that America will put you back where the fuck they need you to be for when it's...
What did Paul Mooney call that? Your nigger wake-up call?
Wake up, nigga.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wake up, nigger.
Because here's the thing, too. Y'all, you want to co-opt certain Asian people into whiteness, though, when you need the numbers. But then when it comes down to it, let something like...
Because like I said, you are in no ways a minority.
You're not. And so... What was interesting to me, or what is interesting, is the fact that all of these subcategories are basically created to distract you from the fact that the upper echelon of folks, like that top 1% of people, are really just, they need you fighting over some status that doesn't even fucking exist, really. You're never going to be that white to where you don't. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, he put it here. You could graduate to whiteness.
If
you could get a pencil to fall out of your hair.
Let's talk about that. You can matriculate into whiteness.
Is that heaven? Oh, not just heaven, Ruckus. White heaven.
That shit is nuts. It's like, okay, you can go into...
As long as you don't bring around any black people.
You have to basically give up your family and say, I won't go see any of my black-ass relatives. And I will, I agree to...
If they have nappy hair, we'll perm it.
But how do you... My thing is this. Now, you still have this DNA. So, like, when you procreate with people, like, I know that there was, like, I don't know if it was on Netflix or whatever, but I know that there was some kind of story where, and it was based in South Africa, where this girl, her parents both looked, air quotes, white or whatever the fuck. And clearly one of them had some kind of African blood in there. And your baby, she don't look white, y'all. And it wasn't like anything you could hide. So it was like a whole situation. So that's my other thing. Like, you personally might be able to pass for white. Because again, white is just something that we look at somebody and say, okay, yeah, you're white.
It's infuriating and stupid.
It's real dumb. So, yeah, I mean, he delves into all of that kind of thing. And then another interesting part to me was, let's see. So Apartheid,
his mom. She's really the star of the show.
She really was. Patricia.
The fact that she intentionally had a mixed race child when it was illegal.
Yes, she did.
Just as a fuck you to the system.
First of all, she needs Thug Life tatted on her motherfucking chest right now. She was out there.
It was phenomenal. Like, everything
really
is, have you seen the documentary? It used to be on Netflix. I think it's just on YouTube now. You Laugh, But It's True. And it's like the documentary about his ascendancy it's about stand-up in South Africa, but he also about him like coming to America. Oh, he was coming to America.
He wasn't coming into America. He was.
He looked like Ron from Different World.
He had them glasses on, the
mustache.
The hit la. Wait a minute, I probably shouldn't be just.
Oh yeah,
I'm sorry. There needs some context for that.
Context is for kings.
Context is for kings.
That's one. Okay, so before I get into that, okay. I'm sorry. So I hopefully that didn't trigger anybody. It's not meant the way I said it, but also, let's talk about some of our favorite stories in the book. And since you mentioned Hitler, let's talk about that story because that was one of my favorite ones. So
I enjoyed that as well.
Oh my God! So Trevor and his friends, they had like this. He was able to pretty much come up with his own little business. So he was...
First off, he was the bootleg CD guy.
He was the bootleg dude.
He was the bootleg
and the
CD
snack
guy.
dude at first, and then he graduated.
He was the snack dude, and then he was the bootleg CD guy.
And let's say why though, because he was saying that like so the Chinese there was 2 Chinese kids I think he said in his class or whatever, and I think one of their parents did bootleg stuff.
Yep. Wow. And, sorry. Stereotypes.
Right. I mean, listen, these are facts. You can go to the book. Do not. No. Okay. But yeah, so he basically was saying like he would, they would be selling DVDs or CDs or whatever. And he was like, the black kids would say, oh, I'll pay you later. And they wouldn't pay him. So they were getting frustrated and they were talking to Trevor about it. And he was like, look, y'all don't be mad. Like they don't have shit. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day,
it's
let
not
me be
like
the middleman.
Yeah,
they just don't got it. And they want, they want that hot shit.
Music.
So you want because poverty is harder without music.
Also,
everything's
harder. I love
harder.
the fact that they were enamored with American R&B and hip hop.
100%. I mean, that just goes to show. Well, that's a whole nother subject about how influential Black Americans can be and are. But so basically, he was kind of the middleman. So he was the person kind of like facilitating these sales and stuff. And it got to the point where they had this pretty much thriving business, and it kind of developed into like a dance crew DJ thing where he had a whole CD writer full of like all kind of R&B, rap songs and all this. And it wasn't just in the townships. So at first it started off just being like neighborhood parties, because I guess that was like a whole thing where they shut down a block and do, these block parties or whatever.
How poor you are, you want to party.
Yeah, I would venture to say you probably need to party harder.
A little bit more.
When, saying life is hard. But they got hired to go, was it a Jewish school? It was a Jewish school in the suburbs.
Something, tabernacle, something.
Oh my God. So they end up going to this place and so like their dance crew, so like they play music and stuff like that, and at some point the dance crew would come out and they had this guy and his name was Hitler, and he was like their best dancer. So the subcontext of that.
It's not an uncommon name in South Africa. They just know it means tough.
The subcontext is that, everybody has their African name that their parents give them that has like this super, like this meaning
and
behind
everybody
them.
has their own history. Like they don't learn about the Holocaust. Like there's atrocities. Most people don't really know about the atrocities in South Africa.
That's true too. You learn specific to your culture, but
so to
they
them
had to
it
get
wasn't insulting to have someone named Hitler. They
had no
tough.
idea. But on top of everything, you had to have like an English name, or what I mean, because everybody learned English.
Just go by your native.
You're not you're picking these names. I mean, I know. I worked with people of Asian heritage who had names that they felt like American people couldn't pronounce. So they would come up with names that were simple. And I would be like, you picked that name. But to them, I mean, like, you're picking what sounds good.
What
you're
Chinese
picking.
name would I pick?
Right. And maybe it means like, I don't know.
I probably pick something that means butter.
黄油.
Maybe. Or,
awesome.
it'd be like, you pick that, you know what I'm saying? That means dumbass or whatever. So, anyway, so it was it was a name that they associated with
just
toughness.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Because
the way that they learned about the Holocaust was different from us.
Like one of his uncles or something thought that was the name of the tanks.
Right, they were like some badass dude named Hitler or something
it's like
defeated the Nazis.
Any story, we're talking about your memory. Like it's like I remember like a jumble of
Can you
words
imagine my
and
story?
images.
It would be the worst.
Yeah, actually, I'm curious. What happened in World War II?
It was Nazis in there, and they got together and they did really bad stuff, guys.
Guys, it was bad, so bad.
Yeah. I mean, that's just a summary.
I mean, like just generally, you just see like uniforms.
Yeah, you see the mustache, gash. I mean, really bad shit. I mean, obviously. So, not to make light of that. So, when we're talking about this is definitely not.
But that's our historical lens.
Exactly.
Like, they have a different historical lens. So, I'm sorry, back to the story, just to give that context.
No, I think that's appreciated because they do need to understand that the way that they conceptualized it was different from us. So, they didn't have that subcontext that we do growing up learning about World War II. Because they learned about Mussolini, and Mussolini is like the baddest,
we never learned about Mussolini.
No. You don't. He's terrible. Google him.
Hitler,
He's the
Hitler,
worst.
Hitler.
Okay.
Well, in Stalin, but they didn't have the outfits because Coco Chanel, she helped to design the Nazi outfits. That's why we always think about them.
Because when you talk about this, branding is everything.
Branding is everything. Because when you think of Nazis, you see the swastika, you see black, you see white, you see red. Those uniforms, those boots, those coats, those hats.
Not the snap though.
But I'm just saying, it's
darling.
It's a look. You can't tell me what Stalin looked like. Communists can't dress.
I can tell you he was a white man.
You nailed it.
Yeah.
Nailed it.
Got him. But so anyway, so back to the story. So anyway, they get to this school or whatever, and the plan was like he gets out there, he gets his music going and stuff. The crowd's all hype. He gets everybody hype. And at a certain point, he calls out their best dancer, who happens to be Hitler. And so, he's getting the crowd hype, and he's like, put your hands in the air for Hitler.
Go Hitler.
Go Hitler. Go Hitler. And then he said, they had their hands in the air like, oh my God. And everybody just stopped because, it was hype up until that point where they're chanting like, oh Hitler, go Hitler. And this lady comes out and she's like, she stops everything. She pulls the cord out and he gets into an argument with her.
Because he thinks she's being racist and she thinks he's being anti-Semitic.
Right, so it's lost in translation.
So it's just this whole disconnect, but...
And listen, and when I tell you I was dying laughing hearing this, and what's funny about any of that, I mean, obviously anti-Semitism is not funny, nor is racism, but the lack of communication in that moment and how communication really, truly bridges the gap between understanding a scenario. You know what I'm saying? Like, they were there having fun and stuff. He's thinking, like, we're here to share because I want to say that this program through their school.
This story. Like, if I met somebody named Hitler, I'd be like, what the fuck?
That's fucking weird. Why is your name Hitler? 100%.
It's like we deaded that name over here.
Yeah, like,
and it was just like,
although there might be a resurgence at this point. Who knows?
Because honestly, what names are we using that are like mad, like,
I don't know. Probably. I don't remember. I don't know. So, but yeah,
it can happen. And once again, it reminds me of Star Trek, because that's usually what episodes are about. It's like you don't go into you have to do research before you go into certain environments to know what does and doesn't offend people.
Right, but they were kids and they didn't know,
they were
and
very
it was
young.
crazy.
It wasn't
because
really their fault.
It wasn't, but it was just super crazy because the lady went off on them, so they're going off on each other, and they went down the street like,
back
hey,
on it, because during the time he didn't understand what happens. That was really just the perspective of time, and he's like,
holy shit, that's what it was.
My bad.
Man, that shit was hilarious. I mean, I'm just saying, it was so funny.
For them, their Hitler is King Leopold.
Yeah, I'm right. Because he's over there cutting arms and shit off.
Yeah,
and
like
whatnot.
to them, that's their standard of atrocities.
Yeah.
And our atrocities, once again, are limited to people that are easy to portray on screen.
Very, very, very true.
Well,
so
not
yeah, that
easy,
was,
but just often have been. So
it's
that we can recall,
trademark.
if we say Hitler, everybody, he had a look. He had that mustache.
You picture a certain thing.
You can see it. Stalin he just wore gray and had a beard. That's not a look.
Yeah, I don't know why I picture him with like an autoimmune disease. I don't know why.
Stalin?
Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, it's just random. Listen, these aren't facts. I said that's how I feel. Like he just looked like he might have had something going on.
And he may have.
I don't know.
They wouldn't have known that yet.
Who knows? But yeah, so that was one of my favorite stories in the book. What about you, friend? Did you have any really cool
favorite
ones that you
story? Oh my goodness, I had so many. Let me pull up. I like the story of him getting a perm. I love any story about a man getting a perm. That's always just so my favorite. Is just
it's like I love it and hate it at the same time, because why the fuck are you getting a perm?
Well,
but at the same time I get it.
You know what? After he got the perm, because I appreciate him, because he was trying to look nice for a girl, and so they were like, "Okay, you need to get your hair cornrowed." Like he actually did like a focus test. Like, what should I? Like his friend took him to a shop
and
was like, "What should he do?" Exactly.
He was like, I started having girl attention after that.
He did, and so she was like, "Well, what should I do?" It's like, "Oh, you should get cornrows," and they're like, "You got to get a perm first, because I can't braid this."
It's like your hair's too
Africa.
Thick. Can I just say that's the part that fucks me up, because it's like, really though,
yeah,
like you have to distance yourself from your own nature. You have to abandon the way that your hair grows out of your scalp to be acceptable, even in Africa, Mama Africa.
But now he'll know when his girlfriend's like, I can't find anybody to do my hair.
That's
like
true,
he'll
though.
be
You have
like,
some
you know
sympathy.
what? That's real. That's real.
It's like straight up.
Like, because they just. I mean, it's.
I'm not competing with no man to get your hair done either.
Because I couldn't find anyone to do my natural hair when I was younger. Like
my mama.
See, but that's what I'm saying. Like someone who would actually professionally do my hair, like naturally, like
that's true.
It's hard to find now. So like back then, you need to get a perm and then I'll braid it. And he did it. Of course,
bless his heart. That shit was hilarious. Yeah, it's not very.
That one really, really made me laugh. Really made me smile. Like, okay, so
that
you
was
understand.
Cute, I liked. So another story I really liked was the one where the bus incident where, so it was like his mom, him, and his little brother. His little brother was a baby.
Oh, that's the inciting incident.
Yes.
That's how the book starts.
Yes. So yeah,
this is
that's
our
one of my
inciting
favorite stories.
incidents.
Yeah.
Is him getting thrown out of a car.
Dude, I mean, that shit was so wild too, because they talk about. I mean, so we're talking about air quotes whiteness or whatever, but also there's just tribalism that exists. So another
that was
really
a strategy.
Another
like,
really
across Africa.
What was it, clever, like part of apartheid was just like separating groups, like the subgroups. So you have whiteness, right? That's what we're all trying to get to, that we never will.
You mean I'm not white?
Right? And then you have these subgroups, and you have these little, if you're colored, you have certain things that, you can do that's over what black people can do, right? Because, niggas is always the worst ones. But then you have these other subgroups. But then even within, like, black people, they were super clever, because it's like, okay, well, let's keep you speaking Zulu. Let's keep you speaking Tosa. Let's keep you... Listen, I can't do none of that. Listen, I can't even roll my R's hardly. But... and it was strategic, because it's like you get people that look like you and you can't communicate with them. So and it creates this thing where it's like, okay, these certain groups have stigmas that are associated. So his mom's group,
that because like it was even more powerful than looking like someone is sounding like them.
100%. And his mom was associated with a group who the women were like notoriously. Was it promiscuous and independent? Listen, in a negative, I'm not saying that they were.
Right.
Clearly, they were probably intellectuals and smart and free-spirited and whatever, but it was, from a man's point of view, it's probably,
The patriarchal view of, let's say, the more conservative and more warlike Zulu. Like, to them, it's kind of like if like Athens and Sparta. like in Greek history, like Athens were more intellectual and the Spartans were the warriors and all that kind of stuff. And so like the Zulus were kind of more,
the physical warriors or whatever.
They were good at creating these artificial boundaries between them so that they
were also super fake and dumb.
Yeah,
right?
so they couldn't organize and rise up against the people who were actually.
Right, because you have zero political power when you're fighting with your neighbors. So, but anyway, there was this minibus system that they had to utilize, and his mom was super churchy, super Christian, and they'd have to go to church, and they'd be at church all day.
Relatable content.
Hilarious. So they were on this minibus, and it was like the little brother. I think he was like a little baby at the time.
9 months.
9 months old. I forget how old Trevor was. He 8 or 9?
I want to say he was.
Am I making that up?
Well, he was 9 when he was born, so maybe he was like almost 10.
10 or something like that. So, but basically, this minibus driver ends up, hurling insults at her because of her ethnic background, because he was an opposite tribe and
basically
blah blah blah.
Her a hoe.
Call her a hoe, basically, and like it escalated to the point where he was like shitty at her, to the point where he was like, I'm about to pull this fucking bus over and show you because you got a smart ass mouth, and so she's trying to de-escalate the situation or whatever, and finally gets to the point where she realizes when he slows the bus down, did it slow down or what the fuck? I mean, it was something that happened where
I guess he was like maybe at intersections. I don't know if they had lights, but there were intersections where he had to slow down a little bit.
Right. And so she says to Trevor, like, jump. And she ends up, like, having to put, because he was, like, nodding off. Because, I mean, mind you, this was, like, a long-ass trip and shit.
Why'd you throw me out of the car?
Yeah, like, she ends up, like, tossing his ass out the damn thing, like, run, and, like, tucks and rolls with the whole baby, and they, like, take off running because this man was, they were in physical, right.
Like,
it was
going to teach her
escalated.
a lesson.
Right. And I'm like,
I'm not sticking around to find out what that means.
No, hell no. Listen, I ain't got time for that.
His life was very exciting, very lucky, too, because he very easily, because he was the bootleg CD guy. He always called himself naughty, but like his one friend who got locked up for shoplifting, and he got off for that
because they thought he was white.
I always wondered, like, what happened? Was his name Teddy or Terry or something like that?
I think it was Teddy because they were together all the time.
That was his buddy, and like he didn't snitch.
Trevor was super lucky.
This to him.
Low key, yes. And I mean,
might not have been no Trevor Noah. He might have got it because he does end up getting locked up later. But he's like, I ain't going back.
That shit was crazy too.
It's wild. It's like, that's one hell of a life.
Yeah, it was. And I will say that I feel like his perceived whiteness to certain people kept him safe in a lot of instances. You know what I mean? Like, for one, like when he was in prison and like. It's funny because people feel like, when you talk about privilege.
Well, he wasn't in prison. He was in jail.
Excuse me, jail. He makes a differentiation.
He does let y'all know. It's like there's a big difference. He was like not in prison.
Excuse me. Yes.
What was that in Boondocks? He was like, do they rape people in holding?
Oh.
You have to get me out of here, Huey. You don't want to know what they'll do to me in jail.
They'll rape you. That's what they're going to do. But you're not in jail. You're in holding. And I don't think people usually get raped in holding. Hold on. Granddad, do people get raped in holding?
Oh my God, probably though. I mean, depending on who's in it.
He's like, I don't think you need to get worried about. I don't think they rape people in holding.
Oh my God, I need to rewatch that. By the way,
such a good show.
It's been a long time, but I just feel like his perceived whiteness or him being air quotes colored or whatever. But the other part was like, to me, that was interesting was that he always felt like he had to pick sides, like no matter whether he was in school or. In jail or whatever the hell he was, Yeah, like, I mean, it was like I had to observe.
I like that he generally picked black, though.
He did.
Except in jail.
Because it makes you pick. I mean, that's the thing about race. Like, at a certain point, like, even if you're biracial and you don't see yourself, depending on where you are, you have to discern that, like, the way you see yourself and the way other people see you is totally different sometimes. So, like, if you're biracial...
Not sometimes. I feel like all the time.
So, like, if I'm black and white, if I go to a job interview, bitch, do you think I can check the white box? Bitch, they'll be like, according to your edges, ho. No, you ain't. Yeah, like, nobody's letting you do that.
I hate to tell you.
So, and it's not to say that
But he could have chosen to be colored, which would have been a slightly easier life.
100%, but it didn't resonate with him.
But to me, that's what I enjoyed about the author is the fact that he's like, my mom is black, my gran is black, my
everybody who
cousins
loves and takes care of me.
He's like, I'm black, I identify as black, so no, I'm not. And colored people really hated him for that.
They did. They gave him the hardest time. That's what he said. Like, people who looked like him could not understand. People would be like, you don't want to associate with them.
It's like, black. You don't want those sorts, and it's like, no, actually, I don't think I want your sort. sort.
Yeah, so that was interesting to me. And I mean, for anybody who's multicultural or biracial, whatever, like, you know, that's its own struggle, I feel like, because, I mean, on a personal level, you're trying to decide how you see yourself. And I think that, you know, like society in a lot of ways probably does not let you express yourself in the way that you want to. But I do feel like...
they definitely want to encourage it.
Well, life has a way of making you pick. And so sometimes that has to do with how people see you. And it doesn't take away from your culture, but like most of the time, you know, whiteness is not a thing that you can, unless you pass for white, it's not a thing you can choose. You know, if you're, because blackness is something that can be detected on a...
like genetic level.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like you can't outrun your DNA, basically. So
I know one of the things that I really liked about it was there's a lot of parallels to... because you talked about living in the hood.
Oh, yeah, I like that, too.
You know, there's so many parallels because I would say, like, the fact that South Africa studied American Jim Crow to get their policies, there's a lot of very similar outcomes and practices. Which one is undereducating? 100%. And to me, and I actually love that quote from his mother, where because she always felt like she didn't belong, and so people would ask her, it's like, why are you teaching him about stuff outside of the hood? And she's like, because basically everyone's like, you can't get out of this, and she's like, I don't care if he doesn't get out of it, I just want him to know there's something more than this,
and that's part of it. You know what I mean?
And it's not a coincidence that he is a part of something more now. Like the fact that you
have to be able to conceptualize that on some level.
I wish I had written that quote down because that was actually really great. The way that he's a very good writer.
He is. I mean, and I will say that like the style of his writing,
he's a stand-up
for sure. He's a great storyteller. Like so good, you guys. Like the way that he tells stories like really pulls you in, and they're super descriptive.
Oh wait, here's a picture of him with cornrows.
Oh my God, Lord, no! Look at him. He looks like Busy Bone right there.
He does.
And everybody, and I'm gonna miss everybody.
And that was one thing. Doesn't have anything to do with anything. He says like 6 hours to get his hair cornrowed.
His hair looks thick than a bitch, and I'm actually kind of like jealous a little bit.
I've done individuals that haven't taken 6 hours.
Like, well, who's braiding your hair? That's my thing. Who is this person? But you know what?
That's the other thing too. There's also sort of a different sort of time management thing that Africans have.
Well,
generally,
don't have me out here talking about Africans.
Just my
African, my African friends.
Respectfully,
listen, and then I'm about to go into the fake.
They don't give a fuck.
That's true.
They'll be on African time and
like,
not
you know
care.
what it
it's
is.
Like you're lucky I showed up.
You know what this is, goddammit. So.
And we are. We're
absolutely. I'm blessed every single time they come around.
Exactly.
But yeah, that shit was wild though. But yeah, just back to his mom too though. Like she definitely beat odds too though, and I think that because wasn't she like one of more than like 12 kids or whatever of like. So I think that she got sent off to live with relatives because they couldn't take care of her.
Yeah, she wanted to live with her dad, and her dad packed her off.
Right, she got to live with her dad, and he sent her to that auntie.
Because later on, like he ends up living with the same grandmother. But I do kind of wonder what the conflict was between his mom and his grandmother.
I don't know what that was.
You don't really get a lot of background on that, but that's because she said she didn't see them for like 12 years before she had him.
The whole time that's just wild. But then she was able to attend like a missionary school, and she learned English, which a lot of the time, is English is always the language of business and the language of money and currency.
Which
so
I thought
that
was weird
elevates
because they're in South Africa. It's formerly Dutch, settlers. I was like, how did English get in there?
I don't know. But they find their ways in all that shit.
They sure do.
Yeah,
And also, too, because South Africa and, like, Zimbabwe and stuff like that, like, I think there was probably a lot of bleed over, too, between the Dutch and the English. Because I know that Zimbabwe kind of... Exactly. Europeans, they thought everything was theirs and tried to carve it up and all that good stuff.
Yeah, but, I mean, she basically was always pushing the envelope on where she belonged and where society put her and what she could do. And I really appreciated that about her because she ended up working in a job in a position that most black people didn't have because she did speak English and she could type. I think she went to like a secretary school.
Like, even though she 100%. Showed him more, like, nobody showed her. Well, at least no one we know of showed her that.
Listen, what I'm saying is that just like the book that we read before this with Miss Pat, Was that Miss Pat last time? No, 2 books ago. 2 books ago.
It was in the past.
So if you guys don't, if this is your first episode,
we don't even know what order we're going to release them in.
I don't know.
So
But
it
the
might be
second
the future.
episode, I think,
weird.
time is weird. But we read a book about Miss Patricia Williams or whatever, and it was kind of that same thing. Like
she was in the hood.
Yeah, like you're in the hood and nobody showed you. Like it wasn't necessarily that you saw this prototype for what it is that you were achieving, but you knew that you wanted something better. So people who are in that position, who are able to say like, fuck this, I'm not doing this no more. I'm breaking the mold. I'm moving forward. Like that, I mean, that's just epic to me. I'm like,
and
that's
she was willing
everything.
to make those sacrifices
100%.
to take those L's. Okay, here's the other thing too that was I don't know if this counts as a spoil. I feel like everybody should know coming into this we're spoiling it, but the fact that his mother is very much a survivor of domestic abuse. I mean, he himself is a survivor of domestic abuse too.
Man, that shit was wild.
It was crazy, but his stepfather shot his mom in the head. And actually in the documentary too, you laugh, but it's true because you actually get to see her. I was super happy I got to see his grandmother and his mom who are both super
cute. They are so cute. I did see that now. Listen, I forgot about it. Now I'm remembering.
Now you remember? You remember? Okay,
I remember his grandma.
Back to you now, because I love his grandma.
His grandma was gangster.
You can tell where he gets his smart mouth from. Because
even his mom though, because that was the thing.
Definitely.
Like they bantered all the time. Like there was always this joking thing that went around.
Oh, because when he got the cornrows, she was like, "Oh, look at my pretty girl,
my pretty son."
Like,
yes,
my son is now a girl.
Yes.
But I like the grandma because I guess he had pulled up in a nice car, and she's like, "Are you going to keep somebody out by the car?" And he was like, "No," and he was like, "Nobody will steal it." She's like, "Is there magic in there?"
Right. Like, bitch, you know where you are? Did you forget? Like, I understand you haven't been around here in a while.
I love Gran.
Grandmas are the best.
She was, but to me, it's very curious to me, like maybe why the mom and daughter. I mean, mother-daughter relationships are very complex. I don't know if you know that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they can be for sure.
I didn't know.
They're beautiful and complicated.
They are beautiful and complicated. That's why I like Joy Luck Club. That was a beautiful movie.
That was it. I mean,
but yeah, his mom got shot in the face, or shot in the back of the head by his stepfather, ex-stepfather.
In front of his brother.
In front of his brother.
Both of his brothers.
Basically, it's just a combination of toxic masculinity and alcoholism.
I know, and that whole relationship too, because I think he resented his mom for that a lot. When he was younger, like I think now that when you conceptualize like what it is to be in domestic violence and not understanding the hold, like those adult relationships have and just how toxic they are, as a kid watching that, you're like, why are you here? Like you're so smart and you're so.
But he said he saw
it,
like because there would be these long gaps in between the abuse. It was because the first time he hit her, like it was years until he ever hit her again.
Oh my God, that reminds me. Can I share another favorite story? This is my last
I'll
one.
allow it.
So when he first, his dad, who was Dutch or no? Am I making that up? Sorry, listen. Swiss German was in his life and, like off and on or whatever. He saw him regularly
Did we
or
say
whatever.
That his mom's African and his dad's
I think
Swiss.
we said that.
Did we?
Maybe.
Okay.
I don't know.
We'll
Hopefully,
put it in the
thank God that you
beginning.
said it. Sure. But his mom, he said that they always had this like raggedy Volkswagen and it was always in the shop. So she met this guy, which ended up being his stepdad. And his stepdad was like super charming, nice, whatever. But of course, he had this dark side where when he drank, he just turned into a whole nother person. So, he witnessed, like we were just talking about the domestic violence and all that kind of thing. And I feel like, because how old was he? I feel like he was...
Well, what struck me was when they went to visit the stepdad's family.
Yes, because I don't know how old he was when this happened.
Because he was Songa. Because he said that's the only reason he knew that language because of his stepfather. Because he speaks like 5 languages.
Yes. And he had only... This is what I was going to say. He had only really experienced... All the women around him were super strong women. They all took care of him.
That's
a world
what he
of
said.
women.
It was a world of women.
World of women. Then he goes and observes their culture, which was different, where women were like subservient and they were,
like men didn't have to
bowing.
They had to bow when they saw men.
Dude, you work. So they work in the city.
I like how he admitted. He's like, I thought that was the shit. Like he loved it. He's like, I didn't have to make my bed. Because the mom would be like, Trevor, make your bed. And then his mom would be like, the stepdad's mom would be like, no, Trevor he needs to go out and play.
He cannot to be doing this. He needs to be out playing.
It's like and so she was like, whenever she was supposed to bow down to, whenever Trevor's mom, her name was Pat. all these Pats.
Patricia.
Man. Patricia.
There was a,
well, she had a real African name too. I don't want to mess
Again,
it
that
up.
was her English name. Like when we were talking about Hitler before, like this was her English name.
But her English name is Patricia. Yeah. And whenever she would bow down to her husband, she would be like super contrite. Like she made a whole production of it. And
that was one of my favorite parts of the story. Do you hear me? I died because it was like all the other ones were all demure and like respectful and like, I bow to you, my king. Like, and then she was like, I'm about to grovel on the store. I'm about to be on the floor. I'm about to be super extra with
whatever
this.
Foods you like.
That would have been me. I was like, you know what? I would have got my ass a beat. Do you hear me? Because I cannot. Listen. All of that shit. I would have got my ass beat, y'all, if that was my. But I love the fact that she turned that shit into a joke. Like, bitch, I will. This is the dumbest shit.
Who did you think you married?
And that's the thing. Like, why go after? And that was another quote.
And she was like, I'm never going back there. She never went back after
I don't
that
blame
either.
her. It was terrible there. But also, too.
It's like Handmaid's Tale.
You want a subservient woman. But then you don't.
Though. No,
exactly.
You don't.
It's like,
no,
you know what I'm saying? Like, when it's convenient.
It's like Prince Hakeem. It's like, this is so boring.
This shit is boring. Like, what the fuck? Like, this is not. Yes, exactly.
Where's your brain?
But then you're mad because you're you know,
because there's that brain.
Your ego's in there, and then it's making you look a certain way culturally, right? Because then your friends like, oh, you don't have your woman under.
Running you. Your woman is not telling you what
like,
to
why do you give a fuck about that? You know what I'm saying? But again, it's hard when you have a whole culture pushing you to be something.
Exactly.
And so I get that that's the pressure. I'm not up against that, but also don't be checking for me because I'm not bowing.
A lot of things that I'm not doing. I'm not bowing. It's like I'm not about to be up against you too.
No.
Like out of us, like I'm these white people trying to kill me, and then here you come. It's like, no.
It's
like
too much.
We're going to have to get along.
Yeah. So that shit was, that story was also a really good one too, though.
To me, that was very, and the fact that, and also, please keep in mind, too, his stepfather is free right now. He didn't get no time for shooting her in the head. Like,
never mind all of the domestic abuse. Like, so, I mean, they would call the police.
There's no documentation because they would never take a report.
How women are.
And this was another thing, too, because I keep having this conversation with women over and over again because with the Me Too stuff, and they're like, well, why are they just now saying something? It's like women have been saying something. Like, even the prosecutor in Philadelphia, because he's one of the lawyers that was defending Trump during the impeachment trial. And he was one of the people who refused to prosecute Bill Cosby when one of his accusers came forward. Like back in the day, like if the police don't do anything and the judges don't do anything, what is your recourse as an individual?
Like, that was part of the reason why he didn't get locked up either.
Yeah, I'm like,
they were like, he doesn't have a criminal record.
There's no criminal record. There's no record of this. Whenever the police will come, he's like, you know how these women are. They talk and they talk and they talk. This is better if. And so the police would never make a report. So when they did go to court, they didn't try him. They were like, oh, these are just how these black people handle their problems, and they beat their women, and that's none of our business.
Right.
And so, but I mean, she's safe and happy now. Don't worry about Patricia. She's probably doing better than
gangster,
you.
Y'all. I'm telling you, thug life forever.
And it was like a miracle. Like he shot her in the back of her head and it went through her nasal passage.
No, hold up though, because so this gun he was trying to. Well, I feel like
he shot her at point blank range.
Yeah, I'm not gonna ruin that because if you do actually,
okay,
that does make it like crazy because I mean Trevor does allude to the fact that like he's not a religious person. His mom was overly religious. Everything was like,
that was one of my favorite. Actually, I wrote that down. Please do. Like one of my favorite quotes about how he kind of characterized. Let's see. Oh, he in his words, he said, "Religion filled the void left by men."
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So basically, his mom said she was married to Jesus.
Oh my God.
And they always had like these religious, debates about Jesus because like the car wouldn't start one morning and he's like, Jesus is telling us to stay home, and the mom's like, no, it's like we have to fight against the devil's trying to keep us home, and he's like, look.
So, but maybe
and
Jesus
that was
is
the day they
trying
got
to
thrown
tell us.
out the car when that dude, he was like,
That's
if you
true.
had listened to Jesus, we never.
He was trying to tell
They're
us.
both so funny. Oh, and I like the way too that she would make them when they were having an argument, she would make him write a letter. Oh, actually, is there any more champagne?
I know. You guys, sorry, I'm super snacking and drinking.
Yeah, I don't apologize at all. I need it in my life. And
give me a second. But yes, that was the same day. I gotta open it.
Okay, fair enough. And so, But his mom would make him write these letters about like if he disagreed with her, and then she would like read it, get mad, and try to fuss at him. He was like,
rebuttal.
You have to write it down. And this was pre-text messages. It reminds me so much of when you're having a text fight with somebody.
I love it.
And you're just like, I'm just
feelings.
No. He said it would go on for hours. I'm like, man, it's so real.
I mean, but the fact that your mom would read that though and respond to it.
Well, and it's such relatable content too, because at least for me, because I was a single mom, very young, with a young boy, and you do kind of grow up together. And like he actually called me right before we started recording.
Oh, he's precious.
He is. But you do kind of have this weird, like, it's of course it's mother and son, but it's almost sibling a little bit because of your ages.
Yeah, I can see that.
And so in a lot of ways you do, like there's so many times where like, why am I arguing with this person?
Even Miss Pat talked about that with her daughter and stuff too. You know what I'm saying? Like, she was young, a young mom. We grew up together.
But they really, and they send you like, your children end up being this mirror of you.
Which is not always awesome.
It's not, but it's also, there's so many times where I look at my daughter, because I have a daughter and a son, and it really does teach you boys and girls, male, female, very different.
Yes, indeed.
And also, like, getting glimpses into myself, because I know I'm like, what a weirdo.
I know.
I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, am I really? I'm like, they're beautiful.
You're a beautiful weirdo.
It's
I
beautiful.
will go out there and say.
But it's so funny to me. Like now, it's beautiful. So it's funny to see both of these minds. To me, they have very unique minds. They're both very funny. And so when you hear them going up against each other
it's
and
hilarious.
the conflicts that they have, even though a lot of it is really tragic, it's also really, really funny.
But I feel like this seems to be a theme so far, friend. Like, I feel like every book that we have read, there has been that common thread of, like, this tragedy but comedy. And I think it's super interesting how life presents those two opposing views because, I mean, I know in my own personal life, humor has to be my, it's certainly my, I don't know what you want to call it.
Coping mechanism.
Yeah, like, definitely. That's how I cope because I feel like it
it's
makes stuff good.
It's also a defensive mechanism. Like, even in the animal kingdom, like, you get disarmed. Like, that's how you disarm.
Dude, I laugh at the most inappropriate shit sometimes, and it's only because my brain is like, I can't, I'm a malfunction right here. I laugh at the worst stuff, and I feel bad, but it's like, I hope anybody who knows me knows that it's like,
well, comedians,
it's not because I think it's funny.
Comedians, because I love stand-up comedy. So that's another reason why I was really drawn to this book, because he's a very good stand-up comedian.
We went to see him, remember?
We did get to see him when he came live. Whenever you can see your comedians, like, pay them.
Please
they get so much money
for,
like, pay them. They deserve.
Yep.
But, like, I hear multiple comedians say this. It's like, comedy is tragedy plus time.
It 100% is, and I think there's some beauty in being able to take things that are hard and make them funny and, like, find that lighter side of it. You know what I mean? Because that's what keeps you going. Because if you really just took everything in, it's absurd. It is, and that's
like,
what's funny.
What is happening right now? Just like we're looking back on that Hitler thing, it's like, what? Because they were doing it. Like,
and they had their arms going, y'all. Like,
exactly.
I need you to picture.
Oh, wait. Why did he pretend to... I love the part where he pretended to be... who was it? Somebody's... Busta Rhymes' hype man.
Oh, my God. His friend lied and was like, hey, you have to pretend. Yeah, he was like, you have to pretend.
He never said how he got them Timberlands, though. I was curious to see... It's like, because you said you couldn't get them in Africa, so that must have been such a stunt if he had, like...
Timberlands, everybody's like, oh, no, he's not from here.
Because, I mean, of course, from here, like, you want to be fresh, but, like, we could go to the mall. Like, it's America. We get all the stuff direct. Like, they're selling it to us. So, but, like, over there, it's harder to get, like, what the rappers were wearing. Oh, also, too, I was really heartbroken when his hard drive crashed because they were doing all these parties and stuff, and he lost all that stuff. And it was, of course, the police. Because the police didn't understand how technology works. And he said it was Windows. It was relatable content.
What was it?
Because he said Windows 95.
Oh, my God.
And it takes so long to close down.
For those of you who aren't old enough to know.
I know. What's Windows?
It was all the way fucked up, y'all.
Yeah, Windows 95 was really helpful because he once again, he was the bootleg CD guy, so he had a CD reader, which once again wasn't very common over there. So he was able to make a lot of money. Because that's the other thing that kind of got him out of this, because he was able to make money at a young age, and he said it's very. And I
got
can
to get
speak to that.
McDonald's.
He's that cheese boy.
McDonald's, yeah, he was that cheese boy. He got to. Because McDonald's like a status symbol over there. He was like, by the time we got McDonald's, it was like, if you were eating McDonald's, you were doing it.
Because he said it tasted like America. He's like, you're right. That's what America tastes like.
He'd be like, you'd be sick after you ate it. You'd be like, goddamn, but I want some more. Give me some more.
Give me some. He'd be like, nah, I'm not either. To me, it was. I like reading stories because I like being taken to other worlds. Like, in the author's world was very different, but also very similar.
Yeah,
like when
100%.
you're talking about haggling with crackheads.
Friend, tell me your experience haggling with crackheads. You have some personal experience? I think if people looked at you and saw you, they would never think that you came in contact with a crackhead.
You think so?
Yeah, I would.
I'm always befuddled by that.
I don't know how, because you said befuddled. Who the fuck says befuddled and has talked to a crackhead? You know what I mean? Those things seem opposed in a lot know.
I mean,
share your crackhead stories, please. Do you have one?
There's too many.
Well, one. Share one.
I don't know.
Okay, we'll come back to it.
The first one I can remember.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so my first crackhead memory would be at the beauty shop, and they would be selling meat. You know, that they stole from the grocery store next door. And they're like, they know you have money, you get your hair done.
Okay, they're in the beauty shop. I'm there. Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm about to say, where the fuck are they selling this meat at? And then I remember,
because I was young. I mean, not so young that I couldn't be at the beauty shop by myself, but young enough that I knew this wasn't like a situation I should be in. And also thinking to myself, like, because I went to the type of beauty shop that you had to be buzzed into because it was not a good area. Okay. And I'm thinking to myself, why did they buzz in this crackhead?
Right. Why did they buzz him in here with his bag full of meat? Like, this seems pretty. Was it summertime?
I mean, I got my hair done all year round.
I know, I'm just asking because I'm just saying the temperature of the meat. Like, at this point, like, this is dangerous.
It was the
We're
beauty
talking
shop,
about.
so it was hot.
Oh, my God.
In the beauty shop. Like, so I don't know what.
I'm just saying, the quality of the meat was questionable, guys. That's a lot. Just want to point that out.
Because there's like 7 stylists, 3 dryers, people. 2 that got hot. 2 shampoo bowls. It was wild. They were in there smoking. And actually, I found out years later, because of course at the time I was a child, years later I found out they were selling crack out of the beauty shop.
Oh, it was a front. Okay.
It wasn't just a front. Like, people were getting their hair done, but it was a safe place because you had to be buzzed in.
No, but don't you have to, isn't that what it, I mean.
They were selling crack out of the McDonald's over there.
Oh, okay, not the actual
you know what
beauty
I mean?
shop.
Like, it was, so we're selling these Big Macs and you can pull through the drive-thru and get this crack.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Crack was the worst, man.
So, like, I got a million of them. So lots of crackhead stories. But so that was relatable content with, I was like, oh, so they had to, but he was getting into the economics of the ghetto. Like, that's where that came up because he was basically saying that even though the crackheads were selling bootleg CDs, he could even charge more for his bootleg CDs because it was just more pleasant to deal with him.
You don't have to go through the bullshit of dealing with a crackhead. You could just, it's like, you're going to pay with the extra $5.
Cute, light-skinned dude
yeah, look at those dimples. That's respectable. Fuck it. I'll buy one from him.
I'll pay an extra rand for that. Yeah. You know, whatever.
Well, and also, too, when we're speaking about economics, too, I feel like it was interesting the way that he broke down, like, you know, you think about people as criminals in a certain aspect, and it's like, but when they're the people you grew up around, and knowing that this system is built to keep them in certain places, it's like they're just trying to do what they can do to survive. And how, you know, it's easy to look down on somebody and consider them, oh my God, you're
you're trash.
You're trash or whatever. Right.
It's like, what did you just? Because
oh my God, the accent. I cannot. Is there a buzzer?
Every time.
Is there a buzzer?
No, like he was saying, like he could appreciate, because of course in his mind, because he's lived in Africa, it's similar to when we did the Cola Booth book. I don't know when we're going to actually publish, but like it's this difference between the way African, like, white supremacy works and then American white supremacy. Because
I almost like the directness of theirs more.
That's what he said.
Honestly, I do. I feel like it's like, okay, cool, because here's the thing.
We're not going to pretend.
Yeah, here it's like we know that there's, because we've read books, and this hopefully is a book that we read one time, and this is actually not a nonfiction book. It's fictional, but it's like, I think it's historical fiction. Anne Rice, her Feast of All Saints.
Oh, we put that on the list.
It's on the list. It's on our wheel that we spin, but I feel like that was the first time that I had read a piece of literature where it kind of helped me understand like where that whole like light skin dark skin thing comes in, and how like
octoroon, and
like
then the
how
different
it was,
levels of laws. Because it was called the Code Noir. Theirs is apartheid. But basically where you create all these tiers,
all these sub.
But he was just talking about how like in South Africa they don't even ask like, why did I pull you over? It's just the police. We can pull you over.
It's like, no, we're not going to go through the trouble telling you your tail lights out.
You know why I'm stopping you? It's
bitch,
like,
I'm black. What do you think?
I assume it's to apologize for apartheid.
Right, exactly. I don't have silky hair.
It was terrible. So
but at least you knew. And I mean, it doesn't make it better, but I do feel like the false pretense that we can create for ourselves and that false narrative of like, no, it's not like that. You know, like, well, what was he doing? You know what I mean? Like all of that bullshit. And it's like, no, you know you get pulled over when you just
listen to the police officer. It's like, oh, God. Okay. But that's also, too, why we learn to be funny, because it really does help to just...
You don't want to die, like, of stress. Fuck. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I'm stressed out already.
Well, I mean, I don't want to die of stress, but also in those situations, like, if you can make whoever's trying to oppress you or your abuse, if you can make them laugh, you disarm them in a way. Like, it is a 100%. Way it is a defense mechanism.
100%.
Where it's like, okay, you made me, I like too where he mentioned that, because I think he said he speaks
a whole bunch of languages.
Xhosa,
Zulu,
English, some Afrikaans. Because he was talking about when he was in jail, he would speak broken Afrikaans, which was basically their version of like speaking like really like, hey man, it was like a bad Latino accent.
Well, he was saying like the colored people were known for being like super notorious gangsters, and so you know his iteration of that would be
of that character,
of that particular character.
And that was interesting to me too. Like they were seen as more vicious.
But you know what? Not for nothing. I think that's what ends up happening too, because I think when you're sometimes in between that space where people can perceive you as not black, you're trying to prove it in a way. And so, like, you go out of your way. You know, when you think of a lot of pivotal people in our just American black history, a lot of them are fairer skinned black folks. But is that
just because they were more acceptable to white people?
Yes, 100%. Okay. Because you have the privilege of being more outspoken sometimes, because you get in these spaces where they think you're going to say one thing and you be like, bitch.
Because there's so many. Actually, I always make that joke at when I'm watching Pocahontas, like Disney's the cartoon. You watch that a lot?
I haven't seen that in
occasionally.
Years. Really?
You know, when I braid hair, like people every once in a while, because I just pull up Disney Plus, and a lot of times, sometimes that gets picked.
I mean, I ain't seen that in a minute.
Oh yeah, okay. But there is that scene where John Smith first sees Pocahontas at the waterfall or whatever, and he's got the gun.
And wasn't she like 13 or something in real life?
Let's not go there. Okay. But like he got the gun pointed at her, and like, but then he sees her and then puts the gun down. But I was like, man, if she hadn't been hot, he'd have shot her.
100%.
Because it's like a lot of times you just need to see that dark skin, and it's like, pow. Because that's the response. So a lot of times the light skinned people are the only ones who survived long enough to even be able to talk.
Exactly. And I don't think it does anybody any sort of like service pretending like that's not a thing. I'm not saying that light skinned people perpetuate that, but there is some privilege that goes with that sometimes, because colorism is a real internalized part of racism.
And he talks about about how the fact that his Asian friend who gave him the CD reader, like that gave him, because he's talking about like, you teach a man to fish and all that stuff. He's like, but are you gonna give me a rod or something? Like, no? Okay, well then I'm still like ass out. Like you can know how to fish, but it's like if you don't give me like if I don't have access to tools, how am I supposed to fish?
And never mind that these actual laws prevented you from being able to access anything, any kind of resources. But then I'm supposed to be doing what now? So that was and I mean it's like that here too, and it's always an excuse to make.
I loved how he goes into the mechanics of how they did it too, by robbing people of their of education.
100%.
And I love how he and Kola Booth said this too. He's like, but it's still worse for American black people because at least Africans still had their land.
Because they can say, I come from a culture, I come from a people, I come from a land. I have some sort of sense of who I am.
Yeah.
And that's what's lost with a lot of black American folks. And I think that's the problem, because there's no flag that unites us. There's no religion that unites us. It's very, again, it's like that tribalism thing. So you have people who are aspiring to, the systems that are in place. You have people who, don't have that context for history and stuff like that. So it's hard to get everybody. And again, I mean, we're not a monolithic group of folks. So, everybody has their own.
Same. That's how we all
it's
feel.
the diaspora. Like, right, everybody has their own experience. But
another quote I pulled was the fact that also among so in South Africa, it's like they basically did 3-tier racism. So there's white
like
at the
Neapolitan
top,
ice cream,
like Neapolitan ice cream, but not
as delicious. Oh, okay.
Okay, so because I think in Neapolitan isn't white in the middle.
I don't know. I couldn't tell you. That's just nasty.
So in South African racism, apartheid, the way they did it was white is on top, colored's in the middle, black's on the bottom. And
but wait, before you, so then it was like colors. Were colors before Asians though, and Indians
no,
and
colors
Malays?
Are Indians.
They consider them colored as well.
Yes, they get swept into the colored, so they get a little more access than black people because they're closer to whiteness.
Whoa, hold up. It says, according to the system of social stratification, white citizens have the highest status, followed by Asians and coloreds, then black Africans. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, just what you said.
So, yeah, but I'm sorry, Chinese people, you're black.
Yeah, you were with those guys.
Tough.
You were the N-words
Tough one, guys.
as well.
But he talked about just psychologically for the colored people, there's always that longing for the white father that abandoned them.
Man, I know that, and that's sad. I can say, even though I'm light skinned, I'm not like longing to belong to
the whiteness.
Nah,
the sweet.
I mean, I'm okay. Yeah, and I guess if that's your daddy or your mom, you are longing for that, and that is sad. I feel like that is really messed up
because that's the thing
you can't
too.
ever get to that.
Oof.
You can't ever get to it. There's no point of, again, like unless you're.
Wait, why was there witchcraft? Like they actually still had witchcraft laws on the book, like as early as like the 60s. Like people were being tried as witchcraft. Yeah, because they were. Oh shoot!
We'll go back to my memory being trash. Hold up, what? Like I never heard this info.
I don't know. Like, there's a deep belief that, well, for one, they thought cats
like
were
natural.
Because remember when they killed his cats?
Yes.
Like, he had 2 little cats, and like he was like he said Africans don't fuck with cats because they're witches, and they know only witches keep cats.
Yes. Okay. Superstitious. Yeah.
But he was like, cats are dicks, and dogs are way more fun. But he still
because wasn't he saying about a sports event where there was a cat that walked across the thing and like a sports person kicked it, and then everybody, all the white folks were so upset about it.
Because that man was put on trial.
Right, but never mind all of the atrocities to people.
Against people.
Oh, my God.
Oh, listen, you know I have my own theory about that.
Do we go into this?
About how, like, if you want white people to not shoot you, just carry a small dog.
A cute, fluffy one.
Because then they're too scared to harm the dog, and so they won't shoot you. Just make sure to keep it around your internal organs.
We need T-shirts for that. That's copyrighted, guys. We're going to have merch where you can buy
what are your essential organs? Or what are they called?
They're everywhere. Essential organs is fine. We know what that means.
There's a word for it. Whatever.
No, it's fine.
But just keep the dog there, and that way, if the police shoot you and they shoot a dog, they're going to be in real trouble.
I'd argue there's no great place to get shot, really.
There are better places than others.
Sure, but, all of them can lead to death.
Dude, he killed that cat, and those white people lost their minds.
Right.
And they just didn't, but they could care less if, like, there was a black person on fire.
No, of course not.
They will run over a black person dying to get to an alien dog or cat.
Somehow,
they weren't trespassing. I love how Neil Brennan always points out that
Neil Brennan?
He's the co-writer of Chappelle Show.
I know that, but maybe.
So he always says that and for me, he's a very good racial commentator, and it's very important that white people say he's white, and white people say the things he's saying is that. Like, white people constantly see black people as trespassing in America. Like,
even living in your own house, you're trespassing.
So that's why, like, when black people get shot and stuff, like, they're not fazed because it was like, well, what were they doing there?
It's always that.
It's always like, well, I don't know if they should have been. I'm not always too comfortable with seeing black people in my neighborhood either. What were they up to? And so there's always this idea that they're basically trespassing. He does have that joke though, where he's like, slavery is such a big deal. I don't know why, like, white people try to downplay it. He was like, if I ever got pulled over by the police as a black person and they were like, do you know why we're stopping you? And he was like, I assume to apologize for slavery.
Should be.
It's like, but no, like we're just supposed to take that one on the chin.
Right. Well, and again, too, like if we were in South Africa, I would just know you're pulling me over from, because I'm black. You wouldn't have to pretend like it's something else. And
Are there any examples of, because I don't know because if you're an American listener, you know how how racism works over here. They went super hard over there.
Oh my God.
Oh, actually, Soweto, one of the ghettos where his grandmother lived, it was engineered to be bombed in case they ever got out of place.
There's no way out.
Yeah.
There's no plumbing.
They took them
There's
into an area, like 1 million people. And
mind you, robbed people of their actual land. Like, so people of color who had land before this, they took their land and displaced them and put them in these ghettos and these slums or whatever with no plumbing, with nothing, with no resources. You know what I'm saying? And... and it's your fault that you're there because you're black,
it's very much
and
your
you should
fault.
just pick yourself up by your own bootstraps, guys.
And in the documentary, you laugh, but it's true, which I think is a beautiful companion because I loved reading this and then seeing his mom, like seeing the people he was talking about, it was very cool. But like when they would interview other white stand-up comics in South Africa, that was one of the things that made me appreciate American white people because at least they have a sense of shame and guilt about what happened. South Africans are just like, that was 13 years ago. Why are they still going on about? Like, they really virulently hate. Like, they don't feel bad about it at all.
I mean, they feel bad about it here.
I mean, there is some sort of, at least performance of contrition.
Oh.
Like, I feel like, even when you're a kid, it's like you need to at least even act like you're ashamed of what you did right now. Like when you go through the thing of being like, I don't care, like I'll spill that again if I want to. It's like, could you at least, you know how to even act right? You know when you're supposed to act right? You know, like, because we act right. Like there's situations where I don't want to act right, but I do. Yeah, that's true. So it's the fact that they won't even like pretend like it was super duper fucked up. Like it was just, it's like if people told Jewish people, get over it.
Just get over it, guys.
It's like,
the Holocaust,
it happens.
Malarkey.
We'll take a mulligan on this one. We're good, right?
Can we just move on? You guys are always talking.
That bums me
You guys
out.
talking about, oh, shit.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I feel like I need to take a break because my daughter just Skyped me.
Okay. Well, listen, you guys, this is probably a good spot to just kind of stop, though. Overall, how would you rate this book, friends? Let's just get to that part.
Because we still don't have a rating system yet. So
yeah, we don't. Maybe you guys...
I gave this 5 cornrows to the back.
I like it. I like his autobiography a lot. I feel like it's one of my favorites.
I would suggest it to anybody. It's definitely entertaining. He's a natural entertainer.
He definitely
is how he survived.
And if
he's
you guys
entertained
aren't
like his life
him,
depends on it.
Absolutely. If you guys aren't following him on social media or The Daily Show or whatever, you should because there's some good content there. So with that, guys, we're going to take a quick break. Listen, I'm baked. That's what this is. That's because I've been drinking... champagne, guys. Okay. So, yeah, we're going to take a quick break. It's almost the end of the show. So, we'll be back. It is. We'll be back, guys. We're back.
And we're
That's
back.
what she just said. You're dumb. I can't.
Yeah.
We're back, guys.
We're back. It's almost the end of the
Okay.
show. This is super fun. It went so fast.
I know it did. And I have a proper buzz, you guys. I'm feeling great. It's a Sunday afternoon for us. So
you know, the faster you go through time, the slower you age.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my
time
God, so I
dilation.
slowed. Listen, don't. Okay. I can't talk about that right now.
Okay.
That freaks me out a little bit. But I'm still excited to be here with you. I'm so happy I needed this today.
Yes.
Since it's the end of the show, what we typically do now is spin the wheel. So the wheel is basically just we have a bunch of books that we want to read. Some of them we've read, some of them we have not.
We want to read all of them.
We are going to read all of them.
We're going to read all the books?
Yeah, eventually.
Okay, cool.
We got
We're
going
gonna
to
read all the books,
we
guys.
do what we want. So we're going to spin the wheel now, and we're going to pick our next book.
And it is Professional Troublemaker, The Fear Fighter Manual by Lovey Jones.
Why did you skip over her middle name, friend?
You skipped over my middle name just now. I'm always skipping over people's middle names.
Sure you are.
It's normal.
It's fine.
You
I can't pronounce
just say
it
people's
either.
first and last names.
It's
There's nothing
true.
wrong with that.
Well, she put it on there.
And
so.
I saw her on she did that on the Netflix special about black female entrepreneurship.
I like it. I like that theme.
And it's very encouraging. I've watched it lots and lots because I love it, and I love
really
seeing black women.
Meaning
winning.
you've watched it a bunch of times?
Yes.
I admire that about you. Do you know what I mean? I'm like,
really?
So yes, because you're
childish.
No, because I feel like people do that more than they don't. Like, I'm one of those people that'll read a book once, I will watch a movie once, and never necessarily watch it again.
If it's something good, I will always go back to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I saw that, it was nice, and then I half-assed, don't forget, I forget
like
what's in it.
So much of the media that I've consumed has not been crafted for me that I am now very, very particular about my media diet. So when there's something positive that I really feel like feeds my spirit, and that whole documentary is just about Black women making money.
Oh my God, blackness again, friend. God damn. They're tired of hearing about us being black. You guys are black.
It's like black.
If you're tired of hearing about blackness, y'all should. This is not the podcast for you. Okay, so you might want to tune out.
Women winning.
I do too. That's what's up.
So whenever there's something that's like that, and the whole thing is just Black women winning, and the fashion's great too. So
all we do is win. No
the
matter
fashion,
what.
the hair, the makeup, you get a lot of inspiration from it. So I saw her in there. She was very funny, and she had another book called "I'm Judging You."
Oh, I like that. You know, I like that.
I do know you like that. So I figured we needed something funny because I'm getting a nigger headache.
Oh my God! I promise you, I have one right now. It's the worst, guys.
It's really, really hard carrying the yoke of
blackness. But again, it informs every aspect of our life. But also, we make we have to keep it moving, and we have to keep things positive and find the silver lining or whatever. So with that, we have our book pick for the next time. So again, guys, we want to invite you guys. So this is a fake ass book club. I have to reiterate this. There will be times where perhaps we're not discussing an actual book that we've read because, life or whatever.
I almost didn't finish this one.
Hello. I mean, thank goodness I had kind of read it before, so that was a thing.
Listening it up to when we came in here.
I like it. So with that in mind, you guys, if you have a stranger than fiction story, email us at thefabpodcast@gmail.com and put in the description or then the title, Stranger Than Fiction, and maybe we'll, read your story and it'll give us something to talk about. Also, if you guys have books that you guys want us to review or talk about, books maybe that, I don't know, gave you life.
Oh, I had a tip too, because a lot of these books, I'm doing on Audible because I need to be able to do stuff while I'm reading, quote unquote, reading, listening. Like I have very few moments to just sit down and read. A lot of times I'm listening to the book while I'm in the car because driving everywhere or doing chores, whatever I'm doing. If I have a quiet moment and I can pop in my earbuds, I'll listen to a book. It was way cheaper to buy this through Prime than Audible.
Okay.
Not way cheaper. It was $21.99 on Prime, and then Audible, it was $26.99. Okay. Which was strange to me because it's all Amazon. But I think it's because it's more convenient through your phone because I was doing Audible, going on,
so they're going to hit you with the convenience fee.
Exactly. So if you take the time to go through Prime, or a lot of times even libraries.
I was just getting ready to say, you guys, if you don't have a library card, this might be a good time to sign up too, because a lot of the time I'll get a lot of books free at the library. And if they don't have them available, you can get on a wait list and they'll, you have access to those physical books and also just audio files and stuff
books
too.
And stuff, so it won't be no wait list. Just go in there and
they'll
get
be on
there.
Y'all.
And that's true for also Audible books.
Yes.
Like not just hardcover books, like you can borrow Audible books from the library.
Yeah, you can
it's really fantastic. It's just but a lot of times with Black authors, I like to buy them.
Yeah, well, support. You know what I mean? When you can, guys, support. We want to support Black art and keep them. I want to
see them win. Too, so I like to see them bumped up the New York besttimers list. So and all that good stuff. But but if you're trying to save a couple bucks. Yeah. I'm just saying.
I think that's a good tip, friend. I like
you.
that. Yep. All right, guys. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. Thank you guys for joining us. This was the Fake Ass Book Club. And until next time, y'all, holla, holla, holla. Bye.
Thank you.
Before we go, we must give thanks to our sound engineer, Eric Dizzy from Dorian Keith Media, to Urban Nerd for providing our music. Buzz Viral Marketing runs our social media, and legal services were handled by Trezanae M. Atkins. If you like what you heard, please feel free to join us every Wednesday for another fake-ass book club. Cheers. Thank you guys for listening. You can check us out at thefabpodcast.com. Please subscribe, rate, and review our podcast wherever you're listening right now. We want to hear from you. Come put it in our life. Thanks again. And until next time, peace, love, and the Fake Ass Book Club. We out.